Matt Campbell takes over Penn State. Masterstroke or massive risk? Penn State just made one of the most controversial coaching moves in modern Big Ten history. They didn't chase a celebrity coach. They didn't win the offseason headline battle. They didn't swing for the flashiest name on the market. Instead, they handed the keys to Matt Campbell, a coach known for culture, for development, for winning without stars, for building programs from the ground up rather than buying instant success. But here's the real question. Did Penn State just secure long-term stability, or did they quietly cap their championship ceiling in the most ruthless era of college football? Today we're breaking down why Penn State hired Matt Campbell, what this move means for recruiting, nil strategy, the transfer portal, and whether this decision reshapes the Big Ten power structure. Stay to the end, because this hire changes more than people realize. Why Penn State made this move. Penn State didn't hire Matt Campbell by accident. This wasn't a safe hire. It wasn't a desperate hire. It was a philosophical decision. For years, Penn State lived in the middle tier of college football's elite programs. Good enough to compete, rarely bad, often ranked, but rarely able to consistently break through the playoff barrier. They were stable, but not dominant. Respected, but not feared. Campbell represents something fundamentally different. He's a program builder, not a roster flipper. A coach who prioritizes identity over hype. A leader who believes culture creates wins, not the other way around. At Iowa State, Campbell built one of the most disciplined programs in the country despite limited recruiting advantages. He won games against more talented opponents. He developed overlooked players into NFL prospects. He maintained roster stability in an era defined by constant transfers. Penn State believes that formula becomes even more powerful when paired with elite facilities, bigger nil resources, stronger recruiting pipelines, national brand recognition. The university isn't chasing quick success. They're betting on sustainable dominance. They want consistency, structure, and long-term identity rather than yearly volatility. This hire signals that Penn State wants to build a machine, not chase headlines. The culture shift. What changes day one? Matt Campbell's biggest impact won't happen on Saturdays. It will happen Monday through Friday inside the program. His coaching philosophy revolves around accountability, discipline, and internal competition. Expect immediate structural changes, higher accountability standards, clear role definition across the roster, less roster churn, stronger locker room hierarchy, greater emphasis on fundamentals. Campbell's teams historically play clean football, fewer penalties, fewer mental errors, and consistent execution. His programs emphasize development and internal leadership rather than relying on star power. For Penn State fans, this aligns with tradition. The program has long valued toughness, discipline, and defensive identity. Campbell reinforces those values. But here's where tension emerges. Culture coaches require patience. Their systems take time to mature. Development replaces instant results. Growth happens gradually. Penn State fans are not known for patience. If early results are mixed, pressure could escalate quickly. The relationship between long-term vision and short-term expectations will define the success of this hire. Recruiting, the biggest question mark. This is where the debate becomes most intense. Supporters argue that Penn State recruits itself. The brand is strong. The facilities sell. The fan base is massive. Campbell simply needs to evaluate talent and develop players effectively. With better resources than he had at Iowa State, his recruiting ceiling could rise naturally. But critics see a major concern. Matt Campbell has never consistently closed top 10 recruiting classes. He hasn't regularly competed in 5-star recruiting battles. He hasn't operated inside full-scale no-bidding wars. Modern Big Ten recruiting is aggressive and relentless. Ohio State closes elite national prospects every year. Oregon aggressively leverages nil advantages. USC sells Hollywood exposure and offensive production. Michigan sells championship culture and development pipelines. Recruiting is no longer just evaluation. It's influence, branding, and financial strategy. Campbell must prove he can operate in this environment. He must show he can win recruiting battles against programs with deeper experience in modern talent acquisition. If he adapts, Penn State becomes extremely dangerous. If he doesn't, talent gaps could limit championship potential. Nil reality, the new power structure. The name, image, and likeness era has transformed college football into something resembling professional free agency. Coaches must now manage financial ecosystems, donor relationships, and player compensation expectations. Recruiting is influenced by opportunity, exposure, and financial value. Penn State's nil infrastructure is strong, but maximizing it requires strategic leadership. Campbell must demonstrate willingness to compete financially for elite players, ability to coordinate with nil collectives, understanding of modern player leverage, balance between culture and compensation. His reputation as a culture-first coach raises questions about how aggressively he will operate in nil negotiations. If he embraces the system, Penn State's resources could amplify his development model. If he resists it, the program risks falling behind more aggressive competitors. This balancing act may define his tenure. Transfer portal strategy, evolution required. Another major challenge involves the transfer portal. Historically, Matt Campbell prioritized roster continuity. He focused on developing players over multiple seasons rather than constantly reshaping the roster. That philosophy built stability at Iowa State. But today's Big Ten demands flexibility. Modern contenders aggressively use the portal to plug immediate roster gaps, add experienced defensive impact players, acquire veteran quarterbacks, increase depth at key positions. Penn State itself has benefited from portal additions in recent seasons. If Campbell resists aggressive portal use, critics will label him outdated. If he adapts, this could become the most dangerous version of his coaching career, combining culture with strategic roster upgrades. Year one portal decisions will face intense scrutiny. Every success strengthens confidence. Every miss fuels skepticism. Big Ten power dynamics. How this changes the league. This hire reshapes competitive dynamics across the conference. Matt Campbell introduces a different identity into the Big Ten power structure. Against Ohio State's Ryan Day, it becomes culture versus talent density. Against Oregon's Dan Lanning, it becomes development versus speed and nil power. Against us's Lincoln Riley, it becomes physicality versus offensive finesse. Penn State under Campbell likely becomes more physical, more defense-driven, more consistent week to week, less volatile offensively, more difficult to exploit. They may not produce explosive highlight performances every game, but they could become one of the hardest teams in the country to beat. Consistency creates danger. Discipline creates pressure. Identity creates resilience. That combination makes Penn State a nightmare matchup, even for elite teams. The floor versus ceiling debate. This debate will dominate talk shows, message boards, and fan discussions. Supporters believe Matt Campbell raises Penn State's floor. No collapse seasons, no chaos. 9 or 10 wins become standard. The program becomes consistently competitive. Critics argue he lowers the ceiling. Penn State becomes stable but never elite. Competitive but not championship level. Respectable but not dominant. The truth likely sits between those extremes. The floor probably rises immediately. The ceiling depends entirely on Campbell's ability to evolve, especially in recruiting, nil, and portal strategy. This isn't a static hire, it's an experiment in adaptability. What Campbell must do in year one. First impressions will shape long-term perception. To win over the fan base quickly, several objectives are critical. First, he must lock down Pennsylvania recruiting. Protecting in-state talent reinforces program identity and builds local support. Second, he must hire aggressive coordinators with strong recruiting influence. His staff choices will reveal whether he intends to modernize or remain traditional. Third, he must win at least one statement game against a major conference rival, such as Ohio State, Michigan, or Oregon. A signature victory shifts narrative instantly. One defining win changes public perception. Missing all 3 goals fuels skepticism. Year one matters enormously. Long-term outlook, the real gamble. Penn State's decision reflects a deeper philosophical question in modern college football. Can culture still win championships? Can development still compete with financial power? Can stability overcome constant roster turnover? Matt Campbell represents belief in those ideas. He represents an alternative model in an era increasingly driven by money and talent acquisition. If he succeeds, Penn State could redefine how elite programs build sustained success. If he fails, critics will argue that culture alone cannot survive the modern arms race. That's what makes this hire fascinating. Final verdict: Matt Campbell at Penn State is not a gamble on flash. It's a gamble on belief. Belief that culture still wins. Belief that development still matters. Belief that stability can beat chaos. Belief that identity can compete with money and hype. Whether that belief leads to championships or simply consistent respect will determine how history remembers this move. And that uncertainty is exactly what makes this one of the most fascinating coaching hires in Big Ten history. So let's settle it. Did Penn State raise their floor or lower their ceiling by hiring Matt Campbell? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want weekly Big Ten coaching, recruiting, and transfer portal breakdowns, make sure to subscribe, because the Big Ten arms race is just getting started.